Hi everyone, Ivo Maropo with you again, and in this video I'm going to show you, very briefly, some hints at the way Hegel and Lacan are related. Okay, just think, for example, just think of Lacan's famous notion of objectivity A, the object small a, which is of course the social point of the signifying chain, the signifying order, which was of course the signifying chain is we have signifiers which pass over into another one. It's a circular crazy motion which then gets soldered hold together by this purely contingent procedural formal element called objectivity A, okay, which for me is nothing but the Hegelian third that you get in. Of course, Hegel is very famous for his triads. So, a classic Hegelian triad has the third element, which is nothing but the immediate correspondence of the other and the one, which of course generates a point of intersection, which then totalizes the field. But this third is nothing but this immediate correspondence of the other, of the presupposed impossible other, and the one. Okay? So we have a presupposed other, which is other just on condition that it's presupposed, which by this standard reflects itself into the one. So the immediate existence of the one bears witness to its own impossibility. The X, the self-sublating affirming entity of the one, is nothing but its own impossibility, because it reflects back an impossible other, purely presupposed. This is the key to understanding Hegel's dialectic. Hegel's dialectic is a very, very radical notion. It has nothing to do with thesis, antithesis, synthesis. This is not Hegel. He never mentioned that. Maybe Fichte somewhere, but certainly not Hegel. Hegel's triad does not concern thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Okay, Hegel's logic does not begin with an immediate naive entity. No, it begins with nothing. Okay, it's a kind of a parallactic shift of perspective from nothing, out of nothing to nothing. But since there is a parallactic shift of perspective, okay, nothing appears to itself as a self-subsisting something. So you get one, the self-affirming, self-subsistent one, just by referring to a purely presupposed other, which one would say is the unconscious dimension, purely virtual, spectral, negative, and all that we get in Freud, for example. Yes, there is an unconscious in Hegel also. Okay, it's a very radical notion, purely virtual, spectral, negative, and all that. So by purely presupposing an other, impossible other, because if you could go there, there's no other to be found. It is only insofar that it is presupposed. The one gets reflected into itself. This is the way by which Hegelian reflexive logic works. We have this notion Hegel called reflexive determination or reflexive shine, okay, which is of course a purely logical game of parallactic shifts of perspective. We have a parallactic shift which then returns back a kind of objective illusion, okay. There is no distinction in Hegel between Wesen, between essence, nature, whatever, and shine, okay, which is like a illusory appearance. Okay, for Hegel, an entity is nothing but appearance qua or as appearance. Appearance in its very appearing is essence. Essence must appear, as it says in Hegel's logic. So it's pretty much this that you have to bear in mind, okay? So with this very brief paragraph from Hegel, let's go back to Lacan. Why is Lacan's notion so important? Because again, it's the point of suture. You have a signifying chain, crazy signifying chain with signifiers passing over into its other, and then this crazy circularity enters into existence by adding an impossible, purely formal, indivisible remainder, as Hegel would have put it, a little piece of the real, a signifier of the elective signifier called objet petit a. Okay, you add this impossible element, which is a kind of an impossible subtraction in a way, which then reflects back a purely presupposed illusory totality. That's the way we get a totalizing moment, a signifying chain in Lacan. Okay, so Lacan is strictly dependent on this dialectical presupposition. There's no logic of the signifier in Lacan without dialectics proper. Okay, which of course is not the final word in Hegel. Hegel's final word concerns a speculative moment, which is of course the moment of reconciliation, where you get the one just as it presupposes a reference to its other. Okay, when you get to that point, you no longer have dialectics but speculative philosophy. Okay, which is the highest moment in Hegel's logic. So in this video, of course, this is a very dense stuff, but I'm just trying to provide you with some hints at the way Hegel and Lacan are related theoretically. Okay, so you have to bear in mind that Lacan's logic of the signifier is basically another name for Hegel's dialectics. Okay, which needs a purely impossible, purely presupposed third to provide a kind of objective illusion to reality, okay, without which there is no reality. Things simply collapse without such presupposed other. Okay, it's by means of this presupposed other, impossible other, that we get a kind of a free return to itself of the one. Okay, an entity emerges out of its own impossibility, or as Hegel would have put it, a thing only comes to be through being left behind. Okay, it is left behind, it's negated, and then by being negated, it generates back that very dimension from which it was negated. But this entity is the one. This one is nothing but this return, pure return to itself. Okay, so in Hegel we have a very radical attempt to purify, to get to the end, to get to the point where the subject itself is erased in the process. Okay, in its process of ever growing and moving forward, purification of itself. Okay, so that in the end we get positedness as positedness, appearance as appearance. So Hegel is in the sense a kind of a one-trick pony, if you want. Okay, a very sublime, hysteric one-trick pony, but just by quoting Lacan here, who once called Hegel the most sublime hysteric So if Hegel was indeed the most sublime hysteric, one has to add it to it the most sublime and hysteric one-trick pony. Okay, so he's always trying to purify itself to get to the point where the other is the one is just it's pure referring to its presupposed impossible other, and that's pretty much what one gets from Hegel's logic in essence. Okay, so yeah, it's a very confused brief video, but maybe you will get some interesting points out of it with some luck. Okay, so that's all.